Hello, all.
Hi, Lindsay. I don't believe Nora is going to be here, so I'm just trying to catch up on list of people who are here.
Yeah, great. Does look like we're
Oh,
waiting on a few.
can I be included
Yes.
in that list?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
I'm
Sorry.
just over there, but if we have both computers on, it fouls up the audio. So,
Yeah. So we do have Ellen and as well, which I reflected in my name, but
Yeah. Okay. Uh, so I see Dan's note taker, but no Dan. Oh, okay. Kent and Tucker is coming in. Yes. So we have we have a quorum. And just for reference, Tucker is here for Alaire, but Alaire will be making the presentation. And so when we get to the application, she's asked for me to send her a 10-minute warning by text. So we'll just have to figure out when I need to do that. But Tucker is here, and I think I have tabs on everyone. Yeah, so I believe, again, just double checking, no Dan, but Dan's note taker is here.
yeah, I think if you have it on your schedule, it just automatically starts the note taker in meetings. So,
Yeah, yeah, I just didn't want to miss him.
yeah.
And sharing is working?
Yep.
Okay,
See the meeting slides.
so we are recording, and so if you would like to take it away.
All right. Welcome, folks, to February 4th. Despite the fact that January was interminable, I'm still surprised it's February. So, here for a pretty packed quick meeting. So we'll try to get through some of our usual stuff fairly quickly. Let's do a quick round of intros so that everybody is familiar with who's in the Zoom space. I'll just call on people. I'm Lindsay. I'm the chair, a voting member, executive director of the MRBA. Ellen is also in the room with me, non-voting member,
hi.
alternate MRBA. Sarah.
Sarah Downs, representing Enosburg. I'm on the Enosburg Conservation Commission.
Beth.
Beth Torpy, NVDA.
And Beth has
Josh.
emailed us to say that she is going to have to drop off at some point and
Yes,
then
I,
maybe come back.
I may not be fully available today.
Josh.
Thanks, Lindsay. Josh Serpy, Friends of Northern Lake Champlain.
Dorothy.
Dorothy Kinney Landis. I work for the Franklin County NRCD, and I'll be making a couple of presentations.
Carrie.
Hi, I'm Carrie Brosnan with the Franklin County NRCD, and I'll be doing the presentation today.
Lauren.
I'm Lauren Weston. I manage Franklin County NRCD, voting member, and I will be letting my staff make presentations today.
Mel.
I'm Mel. I use she, her pronouns. I'm with the Franklin County NRCD also, and I will also be making a presentation today.
Kent.
Hi, Kent Henderson, Friends of Northern Lake Champlain, and a voting member.
Tucker.
Tucker, Vermont Land Trust. I'm an alternate, but I'm voting today.
Heidi.
Heidi Bridge Valenta, as an NRPC representative, a voting representative.
Ted.
Morning, Ted Siddell, Orleans County Conservation District, voting member.
Ava.
Ava Walsh, Franklin Watershed Committee.
Bridget.
Hi, everybody. Bridget Butler, Friends of Northern Lake Champlain, I use she, her pronouns, non-voting guest.
And Dean.
Good morning, everybody. Thanks for coming. Dean Pierce, your staff.
Great. Thanks, folks. Just a quick reminder, please stay engaged, keep your camera on if possible. If you have questions, feel free to raise your virtual hand, write in the chat, speak up. We will monitor all channels and make sure that questions or concerns are addressed. Yeah, there's the stuff up on the screen. Thank you, Dean. I think we all know our roles. Be polite, be courteous, and we'll be efficient. Next up is any conflict of interest declaration. Standing agenda item. And thank you, Dean, for that language about conflicts of interest because we have applications. So, Lauren, go ahead, kick it off.
Lauren Weston, I have several conflicts of interest coming up today with projects from the district.
Great. I will echo that. MRBA has an application on the books, so we also will have a conflict of interest on that item. Others? Kent.
Yes, FNLC's got a application today that I will not be voting on.
Great.
Same here. VLT is presenting a project that I won't be voting on.
All right. Any other conflicts of interest that anyone wants to note? Moving on, we'll review the agenda and approve it. Thanks again, Dean, for sending out the packet. Hopefully folks got a chance to look at it. It's got a lot of our standing items and a few unique ones. And then just this note that the next round will open in April, round 11. If folks don't have any comments or concerns, I'll take a motion to approve the agenda.
This is Lauren. I so
Sarah.
moved. Oh,
okay.
I'll second Sarah's.
Great. We have a motion from Sarah and then a second from Lauren, all in favor of approving the agenda. Raise hand in some form. I've got Lindsay, Lauren, Beth. Oh, thank you, Dean. Heidi, Ted, Kent. Did I get everybody? Okay. Motion carried. Minutes from last meeting. Folks have any questions or comments on the notes that were sent out? Any discussion? If not, I'll look for a motion to approve those minutes. Got a motion from Sarah. Is there a second?
I'll second that.
Second from Heidi. All in favor of approving the minutes as provided to us, please indicate with a raised hand or however. I've got Lindsay, Sarah, Beth, Kent, Lauren, Heidi, Ted. That's all. Super. Minutes approved. Moving on to public comment. The items not related to the agenda. And our standing items are seating of new representatives. There are none. Report on budget adjustments, and there were none for that either. On to applications. Woohoo, the meat of the meeting. Do you want to run this section, Dean?
Well, I can certainly get it started and want to start with an apology because there was a table that had a few errors in it. And thank you, Franklin County Conservation District staff for helping prod me enough times to, I think, get them correct. But I'm going to just tee things off briefly by saying sometimes it's helpful to know the spread, the geographic distribution, and I just thought it was kind of neat that this time, well, we had a large number of applications, first of all, and that they really spanned the watershed, which I kind of thought was cool. You've had the packets for a week now, so you've hopefully had a chance to get some idea of what the projects are. They're in, as I said, a distribution of towns across the watershed, 3 or more different applicants, including a first timer in the land trust. And I wanted to just touch on the corrections, the corrected overview data. Is shown in this table. The numbers will be correct when we get to the individual applications, but apologies for giving you a table in a text document that had not carried over the correct numbers from the spreadsheet. But there are a couple of implementation projects, 3 final design projects, and a preliminary design project, and then the forest roads are a design project. It's kind of a new category, so it's slightly different with a range of phosphorus reductions from a couple kilograms to as many as about 50, which is an impressive number. And in terms of cost effectiveness, again, a range from a pretty desirable cost estimated of about $4,400 per kilogram to about $45,000 per kilogram. And there was no specific order that I had. I would suggest that you might consider having one organization go in order, or at least have them grouped together by organization. You could also do them by phase if you prefer, but really it's the pleasure of the board to, I think, call upon folks to make their presentations and then have your discussion and your votes. And I will make sure that people who are getting ready to present can share their screen.
Great. Thanks, Dean. Just trying to figure out like a 10-minute warning for a layer. Would it make sense for either MRBA or FNLC to go so you can give a layer that heads up and she can join whenever? Like if you want to, does it make sense to give her a heads up right now and then?
Yep, I'm happy to do that.
Okay, and then when she joins, we can just bump it down, and then Lauren's team can go after the individual projects. So Kent or Bridget, do you guys want to kick us off? Or Josh? Sorry, all 3.
I'll be taking this one, Lindsay. Thank you. I'm ready to kick it off.
Great.
Just get everything set up.
So just while Josh is doing that, the project name is Swanton Hill Road Floodplain Reconnection. It's a final design project. The numbers requested, as long as this is the correct table I'm looking at, it's $22,123 with an estimated P reduction of 6.18.
Thanks, Lindsay. Everybody seen this all right?
Yeah, that's good.
Great. Cool. So this is a project that is located in the Fairfield Pond watershed, not in the town of Fairfield, but in the town of Swan, so about just south of the lake. Project map up here, give a little bit of background. So this project emerged out of our Fairfield Pond Lake Watershed Action Plan that was completed at the beginning of my tenure in about like late 2024 or early 2025. And while project really did give a strong suite of potential projects, that landowner outreach part for the specific 30% designs and beyond was variable, to say the least. I think I'm the 3rd or the 4th project manager to have actually touched this project. And it, writing the final report at the end, it felt a little bit strange, but here we are. And so I do want to highlight that we pursued some expedited project development funding from Dean. I know he'll ask me to speak on that later, but I do really want to speak to how beneficial it was to be able to develop this project a little bit more. And so, really looking at this site, it was selected because it seems to be a historically straightened channel with a ditch that moves along the side. You can see on my map where I have it outlined in blue, probably an area that was formerly farmed right off of a road on private land with a very supportive private landowner. And really the goals of this project were just starting to flesh out, but it's really just to take this straightened stream, remove some parts of the berm, and hopefully connect it back to its floodplain. And so because of the easy access, I think it really presents an opportunity for a nice phosphorus reduction at a relatively low implementation cost. So I'm just going to throw up the 30% design. Again, Fitzgerald Environmental was on the project for the LWAP, and we also contracted them to do some of the additional project development work. So it was really fruitful to be able to bring them out on that initial site visit, meet with the landowner after they had already been on the project from 2023 to 2024. We're proposing $22,000 for final design. Part of that is going to be for an archaeological review assessment, which I just heard back from VDHP yesterday. So that is going to be required. Looking like a phosphorus reduction of 6.2 roughly kilograms. Estimated construction about $80,000. So a relatively efficient project. I definitely want to highlight the landowner willingness in this project. It was great to be able to go to the Fairfield Pond Recreation Association and meet with the landowner. And while she wasn't necessarily aware of the project, we didn't really want to dump that on her right at a meeting. She was like aware of what the action plan was doing and aware that she could be a part of it. But we took a step back and also leveraged a tool being Lakewise, which she signed up for. And, that was another great opportunity to be able to get out there and meet with her. Not necessarily talk about the project, but sort of like plant the seed of who we are, what we're doing, and what we're trying to achieve. And that, really flowed into being able to get this project development funding and have additional meetings with the landowner to be able to see that through. Sorry. And you can see this photo right here, which is taken from the box culvert on Swan Hill Road, looking north. And I can't really see it, but if you stand on it, it's a visible like 1 to 2 foot berm that is about 200-300 feet long. And I think it provides a nice opportunity to be able to, reconnect the floodplain to the adjacent wetland. And I'll also go back to, I'll go back to the 30% design and also highlight that there are a few options that we're going to consider in terms of, the hydrological connectivity, that being potentially installing a cross culvert. We see evidence kind of where the berm is, that what we think is that the town of Swan, somebody has been going back in there and taking out beaver dams, maybe to alleviate some stress on that box culvert. So, that's something we want to have a conversation with them early on, maybe do a hydrological study to see just like what type of flow that box culvert can handle, and then see if like they would be interested in us digging up their newly paved road and installing a cross culvert. So just something to consider. It would probably trigger some wetlands permitting, but all in all, we anticipate this project having good access. We wouldn't need a permit for that part, just to really consider the cross culvert. So I'll leave it at that. Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, Josh. Anyone have questions about the project? Go ahead, Lauren.
Excuse me. I just want to flag that this seems like a great project. I just want to make sure that you kind of just said that you might want to do some more alternatives analysis on a couple different things, and the 22,000 just seems a little low if you also want to do alternative analysis to me. But if that's what FDA gave you, I trust that too.
Yeah. And yeah, so I had a conversation. Yeah, definitely. So having a conversation with Joe, he's like, first thing we would do is, we factored in that culvert for the design, but we would go initially like talk to the town of Swan and see what their appetite would be for actually digging up the road.
Any other questions? If not, let's have a motion.
This is Lauren. I move to support this project with the funding amount requested for this phase.
We have a
That's
motion from
Adele.
Lauren. We have a
A
second from
second.
Ted. Okay, motion from Lauren, second from Ted. All in favor, please indicate with the raised hand of some form. Lindsay, Sarah, Tucker, Beth, Ted, Lauren, Heidi. That's everybody. Any opposed? Any abstentions? Kent is abstaining. Motion carries.
Thanks, everyone.
Yahoo, fun project. All right, I think I had proposed that we would go next. So our project is floodplain restoration as well along the Trout, on a tributary to the Trout River. It's a final design project. We're around the same costing, 21, we asked for 21,549. Has high phosphorus reduction, 49.2. I have just a couple placemaking slides. Let me get that going. And this project is related to another project that has QUISP funding to support it. So I wanted to just sort of give everybody a sense. This is Longley Bridge Road in the town of Montgomery, just barely. Enosburg is like over on this side of the screen. This project has been implemented. It was implemented by the town of Montgomery and VTrans, I think, or VTrans supported. It's a hardened bank. There's huge erosion here. It was threatening the road. This was implemented. Dean, you probably know better than I do. In 2023, I feel like.
It was, I don't believe it was in 23. I think it was in 24. Yeah, I think it finally happened in 24. Time
Yeah.
flies.
Yes. So it's a rock toe, a fairly high rock toe, and then it's got some plantings on top of it. When this project first came to my attention, I said, well, can we, expand it because there's erosion all along here. It's historically been a problem. There's been a lot of hardening at Longley Bridge, which is just upstream on the Trout. And so it forces velocity down here. So we started trying to find funds, and we have a landowner on board. This is all owned by the same landowner. It's been a site of work for a number of years. I think it was 2010, a bench was put in here. This is the only remaining successful chunk of that, but it is a nice little grove of willows. So we have funding to support putting in engineered log and design for engineered log jams on this section. There's a tributary here in these trees that are not part of the existing design and is a great spot for floodplain reconnection. So that's the placemaking. And now if I go to my next slide, if I can get my computer to go next slide, there we go. This is from the design plans for the engineered log jam. I just wanted to show you this because the next image is going to shift the look of the river, the orientation of the map. So this is that hardened bank along Longley Bridge Road, and this is that tributary that's all treed in here. That existing willow grove is reflected by this shaded area. There we go. Change of perspective. This is that Willow Grove sort of success area, and then these are the design plans that show the engineered log jams and planting on the top of the bank. This is the tributary that we would like to expand the project into, and just really do a lot of work lowering this. It's very incised back here, and just really try to sink water in this area. And plant out the, yeah, Ellen, you want to jump in here? Feel free. Yeah, plant out the riparian zone all along here. So that's where the high phosphorus crediting comes in, because that's going to be much higher phosphorus value than just slowing down the water with the engineered log jams. So it would be essentially combining the two projects, just getting final design for this work to happen in conjunction. That's my last slide, just to show the area that we're looking at is right here. This is that tributary. So it is along the corridor. Anything I missed, Ellen? You want to jump in?
No, I would just, the only thing I would add would be that the project, the sort of soft stabilization part of the project is right on the edge of the river corridor. So while DEC is not really energetic about doing stabilization projects, understandably, that the because it's on the edge of the corridor and combined with the flood plain restoration parts of the project, that it would be a project that they would support. And I've talked with river scientist Stacy about that. So yeah, so I guess if there are any questions, we'll go from there.
Lauren.
Yeah, this is arguably more of a question for Dean, but just thinking through that this project and Josh's are actually both final design. I just want to make sure that it was communicated to project managers that final design needs to include bid phase services as well. And just want to make sure everybody's budgeting for that.
So I'm going to ask you to say some of what you said again. For some reason, for me at least, your mic is a little muffled. So you were just asking about what again?
Sorry, it might be that my throat is actually muffled, not
Oh,
the mic
no,
so
it's much better now.
I just want to make sure that Josh and Lindsay/Ellen are including in their budget funds for both themselves and for their contracted engineers to do bid phase services work as part of final design, not as part of implementation like it says in the CWIP policy.
Thank you, Lauren.
So I'll take a stab at it and say I'm not remembering off the top of my head that detail of it. And so what I would say is that we as the QUISP can act within the approval. And if the approval is larger than it needs to be and it needs to be moved and held until later, it can. If it's not large enough and if what you're saying essentially is that you're thinking that there's going to be additional expenses and that the amount that's requested should be larger, then that should be given consideration probably at this time rather than having to do it through an amendment. Is that what you're saying essentially?
Yeah, I basically just want to make sure that Lindsay and Josh feel like they have all the budget requests for all the tasks that are going to be expected in the final design from a quiz. At this point in time, I'm very supportive of the project, so don't read this any differently than that.
Yeah, thanks, Lauren. I did neglect to mention that we do also have some funding through Wildland Scenic to help support this project. Any other questions for me or for Ellen? Okay. Seeing none, I'll seek a motion. Sarah?
I move that we fund this project as requested.
Great, thanks. We have a motion from Sarah. I have a second from Ted. All in favor? I've got Sarah, Tucker, Kent, Beth, Lauren, Ted, Heidi. All right, any opposed? Seeing none, I will declare my own abstention. Motion passes. Thank you very much, guys.
And I would just interject that I got an email from Alaire, which helped remind me that her preference was actually later. So I think it's going to be closer to 12 when she's able to come on. So if we just adjust it accordingly.
Great. on to the FCNRCD team. Who's first?
I can go first. I've got a couple projects to present on. Let's see here. I'll start with the Cooks Brook riparian buffer planting project.
Great. And while you're pulling that up, Dorothy, I'll just review Cooks Brook riparian buffer planting. It's an implementation project requesting $16,493 with a P reduction of 3.72.
Okay, can everyone see that?
Yes.
Great. All right, so this is the Cooks Brook tributary riparian buffer planting in Bakersfield. We're proposing a planting of a 1.5 acre riparian buffer along a couple of small streams on Rosalie Williams property. This land is conserved with Vermont Land Trust, and the planting area is part of a wetland protection zone easement with VLT, and part of the planting area was recently retired from agricultural use. So actually, Tucker was the one who brought this project to us. He mentioned that there's this wetland protection zone easement going into place and shared this map outlining a few areas to maybe plant some trees, and wasn't sure if there might be some more opportunity on this eastern section, but that ended up being pretty wet, kind of beaver pond area. So we adjusted the planting area after doing a site visit to be this 1.5 acre zone divided up into a few pieces where there's former pasture and a couple of other gaps in the existing buffer. The P credit for this project is 3.72 kilograms of phosphorus per year. And that was using the interim phosphorus calculator and FFI for stability credits. For the planting, we'll be doing 400 stems per acre, sourcing bare root trees that are 2 to 4 feet, and placing wooden stakes with each stem to help with future maintenance and survivorship counts. And so the project cost is going to be around $16,494 total. And the project benefits are clean water, increasing the width of the riparian buffer and adding vegetation between some of the adjacent ag lands and surface waters, ecosystem services and climate resiliency, and just enhancing that riparian habitat, and then recreation and community. The landowner, Rosalie Williams, is very enthusiastic about this project and involved with Vermont Land Trust and Cold Hollow to Canada. And so we'd like to highlight this project and all these collaborations with other project partners. All right, that's it for that project. Any questions?
Anyone have questions for Dorothy about this planting?
I had a quick question. With the stakes, how much are those?
Okay, $3 a stake from ICN this year.
Oh, that's actually not a bad deal. That's way better than getting them from the local feed stores up here.
Yeah.
Are they pretty thick, or are they just pretty like 1 inch by 1 inch pine stakes? Or
Sorry, I was referring to live stakes, not the stakes. That's my bad.
Okay. Yeah, I'll have to double check the cost of, like, in the past, we purchased some like wooden stakes that were around, I want to say like $225 each. We are going to explore using some bamboo stakes, which are cheaper. I do not recall how much at this moment those are per stake. And we are sourcing those from Meadowview. And yeah, it's less than $225 per stake. And those are
Yeah.
like 6 feet, kind of, skinny. So we'll see how they hold up.
Yeah, I've tried stakes with paint on them as well, like spray painting them like bright orange, bright pink, some kind of neon, but I found that the paint wears off really fast after a couple of seasons, and they're hard to distinguish between goldenrod and others until you bring a line trimmer in, then you're like wrapping your line around those bamboo stakes. Yeah, I'm just curious because I'm trying to keep track of all the plants I'm planting as well. So I'm sure we're going to be repeating several of these.
Yeah, our hope is that this is at least better than, trying to find those like little flagging tape, that have probably fallen off the trees after like a year.
Turkeys pull them up, deer eat them.
Kent.
Thank you. I'm going to take advantage of all the arborist expertise sitting on this council. I'm kind of curious what species you're going to be planting. I'm thinking that maybe there's a reason why trees haven't come up in that area already, if she hasn't been pasturing it. But I'm just kind of curious. There's so many great minds sitting here. I'll take advantage of it because I've got a couple spots that I'd like to populate too.
Well, maybe quickly, Tucker might have the answer to this. Do you know when Rosalie stopped pasturing there? And I know she recently brush hogged it too because she's like very excited to plant trees here and wanted to do a little bit of prep. So that's part of the reason there aren't trees.
Yeah, there wasn't many trees growing before she brush hogged it. It was pastured not this growing season, but the last growing season. So not too long ago.
Yeah, so my real question is what are you going to plant?
Definitely some balsam firs, and I'm trying to like remember offhand what is on my planting list. I think a little bit of red maple, although we're trying to be mindful of deer pressure and what they like to eat.
I have the list up if you want me to read it.
Amazing. Yeah.
Red maple, yellow birch, tamarack, balsam fir, speckled alder, red osier dogwood, silky dogwood, briarwood viburnum, and white pine.
Thank you, Mel.
Lauren?
This is to the question about the stakes. I did also chat with Katie Kane and Ben Gabos and Phil Wilson the other day, and they said like in a perfect world, they'd like to see the reusable fiberglass stakes, but those splinter too. But they said that those are probably the most winter and weather resilient. So if somebody just has a bunch of money and you want to buy those, it seems like that would be their recommendation. Just wanted to share that back with the group. But we're gonna try the bamboo and see how it goes too.
Any other discussion about this project? If not, seek a motion. Sarah, you've got a
I
motion.
move that we move forward and fund this project fully.
Thank you, Sarah.
I'm excited. There's good projects.
I'll continue my seconding.
Excellent. We've got a motion from Sarah, a second from Ted. All in favor, please indicate. Got Lindsay, Sarah, Kent, Tucker, Beth, Heidi, Ted. Any opposed? Any abstentions?
This is Lauren. I'm abstaining.
Great. Motion passes. Dorothy's had another one, I think.
Yes, just pulling that up. All right, can folks see this presentation?
Yes.
Maybe yes.
Yes, Rock River.
All right, so this is for the implementation of a floodplain restoration on a tributary of the Rock River in Franklin, Vermont. This is building off of a project that's currently in its final design phase on Bouchard Family Dairy. Location is on a tributary of the Rock River, and the project extends along 2,700 feet from the southern portion of the property, heading north and then west. This project location is also in a riparian buffer zone easement with Vermont Land Trust that extends on 50 feet of either side of the current channel. The land is also enrolled in CREP and will be planted in the spring of 2027. And then I'll also add that this project location includes an area where there was a two-stage channel implemented in 2018, and that project was led by FNLC. Project goals are to increase flood storage capacity, improve water quality, and reduce phosphorus loading, and enhance overall restoration and conservation efforts taking place on the property. So with that VLT easement and CREP, there's already, this land is already coming out of production and management by the farmer for ag purposes. And so kind of taking advantage of that opportunity, we thought maybe we should do some additional work to restore some floodplain access here. And so we did explore some alternatives for this restoration project with the landowner, but what Greg Bouchard, the landowner, is most supportive of was just a continuation of that two-stage design, and that would be accessible by 2-year floods, and it would cut down the grade along the stream, and then kind of go up to the existing grade towards the edge of the easement area. And just for a little bit of a visual, this is approximately what that 50 feet on either side of the channel will look like. And just for a little bit more information about this alternative, this is from the alternatives analysis. So alternative 1 proposes installing a 2-stage channel to provide accessible floodplain during the 2-year floods and greater without promoting flooding in actively farmed fields. The flood benches that form the 2-stage channel will be approximately 6 inches below the 2-year flood elevation. The benches will taper at the inlet and outlet of the existing culverts, near existing bedrock, and as needed near the existing manure pit leak detection line. The benches will tie into existing grade at the boundary of the easement on a 3 horizontal to 1 vertical slope or lower for stability. Flood bench work will not include any work within the existing channel below the proposed bench elevation. The flood benches provide 6.5 acres of additional floodplain, which includes areas not previously accounted for during phase 1 of the project in the upstream 1,000 feet of the reach. The model showed a reduction in flood inundation extents in the field west of the culverts and an overall lower stream velocity due to the increase of available volume within the channel. This alternative is comparable to widening and continuation of the work completed in 2018. And the phosphorus credit for this project is 31.3 kilograms per year. And this does not include credits associated with tree planting, as that work is being completed through CREP. And that was something I had asked Dean about a while ago. It's like, should we include this? Because there's also tree planting happening, but that's under a separate, funding source and project. The budget for implementation phase is $456,348, and that brings the total project cost to $543,770, with an estimated P-cost efficiency of $17,371 per kilogram of phosphorus. And so, as I mentioned, this project is in its final design phase, and that kind of goes through June. That does include bid phase services with the engineer, which is Fitzgerald Environmental, to figure out and create bid documents for implementation contractors. We will also be completing the phase 1 archaeological investigation this spring, basically as soon as field conditions permit, and wrap up with securing permits and developing the site access easement and O&M plan. And then starting this project implementation will start in April of 2026. Depending on when we get the results and information from that phase 1 investigation, mobilization is expected to start in the summer or early fall of 2026 and take 3 to 4 weeks. And then wrapping up with implementation in the fall and closing out through the fall to the end of 2026. And then outside of this project, the crepe planting will take place in the spring of 2027, maybe with some potential staking, like live stakes in late 2026. Project benefits are to support clean water and sanitation, ecosystem services and climate resilience, especially reducing flood risk on the ag fields. And then, as I mentioned, supporting other conservation and restoration efforts taking place on the property. And that's it. I do realize one thing I didn't mention is all the excavated material from digging out the flood benches will remain on site and move to this blue area. So on an ag field and an area where there's some exposed bedrock. So it doesn't have to move too far. Are there any questions?
I missed the part where you described what had happened previously in 2018. Could you just point to where that
Yes.
is?
So that is this area outlined in red on the southern extent of this stream.
Obviously.
Property. And that was also a 2-stage channel design, but a little bit narrower than what this project is proposing. Yeah, Kent.
Yeah. If Heidi, if you're finished, are you good? Can I go ahead? Okay.
Yes, please.
You're going to collect a lot of sediment with this project. This is a good project. With that in mind, I can tell you in the first stage, we collected a lot of sediment in that area. And part of the management of it was that the landowner decided that he had to remove that sediment. I'm wondering where the tree planting is going to occur and if that will be taken into account. I had another project, not this one, but I had another project where after 4 or 5 years, the farm manager came in and did the traditional ditch clearing, and it removed all the trees on one side of my ditch. So I was kind of curious how the planting will occur. Will it include the first stage that was done in 2018? Or is it just in the new location? And does it take into account the management of the sediment buildup in the ditch?
My understanding with the crepe planting and the tree planting is that is going to happen along this entire extent. Like on this map, the area that's in this green highlight. And so that will be in that flood bench. And we haven't yet drafted the wording of O&M. We'll definitely be curious to talk with VLT about what the language is in their easement. But the landowner, there might be some allowances for managing so that the tile drainage is still functional, but shouldn't be doing significant work managing and definitely not cutting trees.
So you're saying the plantings are going to occur in what I used to call the shoulders along the channel, along the deep channel, or are they going to be up on the high part?
I almost added a little graphic. Maybe I'll do it right now. Of the trees are gonna go. Okay, so there's like the existing elevation up here where the field is, and then it cuts down.
Yep.
And the trees will go on this.
Okay, that's the part that I called the shoulder.
The shoulder.
So we're talking the same language now, right?
Okay.
I get it. Okay. And that was submerged a lot of the time. I was amazed how long that would stay submerged. And it does a really good job of collecting sediment. We tried to figure out ways to actually measure it. And every time we put something in the shoulders, we lost it. It either got buried and we couldn't find it or it got washed down. But, the measurements we took, the phosphorus measurements we took at the inlet and outlet, it was highly encouraging. So it's a very, very effective structure to put in. This will be a good experiment though, to me, to see what you can plant in those shoulders, because what I did see was just a lot of invasives would go in there, and the mallards loved it. Every time I walked down through there, I scared up a bunch of mallards. So, it's a very good structure.
Greg is very excited to have more ducks.
Well, yeah. And I also looked up at the cost and what our costs were as to what this is. And our cost was greatly reduced because that's when the manure pit was being built. And so he was very willing. They use their own tractors and dump wagons to move all the soil as we were removing it. And it's a real solid clay basis, so it made a very good wall for that manure storage area there, that square, at the top of the map there. So it was a very good for everybody involved, and it reduced our costs, a lot. And I think by having a use for it, the fill that is on the property, that's really good thinking, and it's going to really help reduce the cost and conserve fuel and compaction. I think it's a good idea.
Yeah, we know that these projects can definitely have a huge cost if you have to move material far. So
yeah,
fortunately, there is a spot that Greg is supportive of moving this excavated material to, just right nearby.
Lauren, did you have a question or comment?
No, it got covered thoroughly.
Any other questions or discussion about this project?
I had one quick one, if I could. Dorothy, could you just explain a little bit more what's meant by the extent of the bench may be adjusted based on flexibility of the leak detection system?
So I'll do my best. So there's this manure pit here, and then there's some sort of lines that extend out from the manure pit that are this like leak detection system. And I don't know the details of how that works. But like with the leak detection system lines, and then also there is some tile drainage throughout here. Some of which is known and some of which might, we might come across more as the work is being done. just some adjustments to like the height of the bench and construction to accommodate those things.
So if I'm looking at the plan that was in the application, there's essentially a cone, two dash lines that are extending north. So it's sounding like maybe that on either side of those lines that are represented by the dash line, that it could be that maybe there are notches in the bench or the opposite of notches because you have to create a space for or not disturb the lines. Is it something like that?
I don't know for certain. I can definitely check in with
Dean,
Fitzgerald.
are you looking at the black and white dash lines? Is that what you're referring to? You're muted.
Yeah, I had just pulled up a plan that was in the application packet that is in black and white. It's the Fitzgerald plan sheet. Yeah, it's shown on Alt 1. But I had seen the words on the slide that Dorothy presented. And so that had me going back and looking at. So this is where I'm seeing it. So it's a plan that shows the location or possible location of these lines.
Sorry, and so your question is, what are we gonna do about it?
Well, so the slide that Dorothy mentioned or showed earlier mentions this possible adjustment for the leak detection system. So I'm just trying to get my head around like how much of a change could an adjustment that's made for the leak detection actually be? That's all. I was trying to get a handle on.
I think in the grand scheme of things, it's not going to be a very large adjustment because that's just basically this one line coming out from this manure pit area extending north to the stream.
Okay, so if it is just one line, the plan is actually showing a cone and it's somewhere within those. It's not showing two lines. Okay.
Sorry, Dean, do you mind sharing your screen just so we know that we're answering your question? Because I think I'm not looking at the same thing you're looking at. And I want to give you an answer.
And I'll also note that Alaire has joined us.
Okay. Hey, buddy.
So I'm looking at this area here. Can people see a plan?
Yes.
Okay, so manure pit, extent of bench may be adjusted, manure pit leak detection lines, plural. So I wasn't sure that maybe there are two, and that's what the dashed lines represent, in which case I was thinking that it's kind of like an easement. You'd be looking at an area on either side of the line, but if it's only one and it's within those, then that represents a cone that could potentially be affected. And so that's what gave rise to the question. Hopefully that helps.
I might be speaking out of hand here, so Dorothy, feel free to tell me I'm wrong. But I think if during excavation we find that those lines are problematic and can't easily be shortened and or maybe readjusted, I think what the plans are arguing is that the cut of the floodplain might be tapered towards that culvert so that they're not interfering with the manure pit system. But we can get you more details.
Any more questions or discussion about this project? Kent?
Yeah, I want to go back to those shoulders and planting in those shoulders. I just know that they're going to be in standing water for quite a period of time. I'm really concerned about the survivability of trees or shrubs planted on that area. I'd like to have a little more assurance that something that's planted, that trees or shrubs are going to survive on those shoulders. Is there evidence? I mean, it's not like Vermont invented this structure. There's several that have been built in the Midwest. Has that been researched to know that you can actually have a successful riparian planting on that structure?
Dorothy, if I can interject.
You look like you might have some answers.
I hear your concern, Kent. I do also want to share that the culvert at the downstream end of this project has also been widened and improved by NRCS so that that is no longer a choke point. And so this additional floodplain lowering plus that culvert should reduce the amount of inundation on the benches over time, and should allow more successful sediment transport so that it's not immediately building up. And then in terms of the trees that will be selected, that is certainly a bed and fill CREP question. The good thing about CREP though is that they do have survivorship requirements. And so I think one of the things they're doing a lot with the riparian buffer plantings these days is this type of like adaptive management. So if things aren't working or the species that are originally selected, if maybe one or two are the only good ones that are really thriving there, they will go back and replant kind of with just those ones that they're having success with, try to jumpstart the succession line. And also with CREP, they are having success with managing invasive species on sites that are this wet as well. And so I make no promises that like reed canary grass will not show up, but it does sound like they have resources to address it when it does. So hopefully that'll help out the trees outcompete any invasives.
Go ahead, Heidi.
I just wanted to touch back to what Kent had said earlier about a demonstration of disregard for the previous work and what the level of trepidation is for investing such a large amount with the same landowner, and what sort of protections are in place to ensure that that same scenario does not play out.
Dorothy, I'm happy to take this one too if you would like.
Sure. I mean, what I can say is that there are multiple programs and entities that presumably will be holding the landowner kind of to their agreements, because there is this VLT easement and CREP in addition to this project.
Yeah, so I'd say, and Kent, feel free to correct me if I'm wrong here, but I think when Kent's project was done, I think there was no funding for O&M at that point in time when this project was done. And then there was also no additional layer of easements on top of it that had any sort of punitive ramifications if the landowner did something that didn't make sense.
I agree. I think there are more safeguards this time than in the simple project that all we had was a O&M agreement with the landowner's signature is all we had.
Thank you.
Go ahead, Tucker.
Yeah, just to speak to the VLT easement that's in place here, Greg won't be able to manage within that area, at all beyond these restoration efforts. So, kind of as part of the riparian buffer wetland protection zone language. So, that's definitely a safeguard that's in place now that wasn't before.
So does that mean that the landowner will not have the ability to remove any sediment if that channel fills up? That it's got to stay that way? There'll be no sediment removal from that ditch.
Yeah, I mean we can approve practices as long as they're in line with like the best current science. I think our language is something like that. And so, you know, if it's at a point where that's what makes sense from a restoration and stewardship point, then I think we would approve some activity.
Mhm.
If there's trees, that's that's another question, but we wouldn't want it to see to the point where it's like flooding the ag land adjacent to the buffer.
Right, just to build on that, there are tile lines that are in the adjacent fields and the elevations of those outlets and the impact that basically flooding those lines would have on the nearby ag production is being taken into account too in potential management of built up sediment in the stream. So I think theoretically, yes, there could be sediment management, but it would be very intentional and it would be triggered by previously agreed upon language.
Go ahead, Dean.
Yeah, I guess to Ken's point, earlier in this meeting, there were references made to the work that goes into preparing the management plan. And this is a project I think that's going to have a lot of people paying a lot of attention to it. And there are these complicating factors of the different easements because, or an easement in the case of VLT, and at the very least, the site access agreement that the QUISP will hold with the landowner. I think this may be something, this is triggering a thought about the clean water service provider and VLT having a conversation to make sure that the requirements of the clean water program and of their easement are in line. So, and what I'm getting at is that we want to avoid a situation where VLT says, "Oh yeah, that's fine," and the clean water service provider says, "Well, maybe we're not so sure." So anyway, the end result is there's going to be a lot of attention paid to the language that goes into the management plan that's part of the site access agreement.
Yes.
Other questions or discussions? Would someone like to make a motion? Sarah.
I move that we approve the funds for this. It seems like there's a lot in place to make sure that it will happen correctly.
I
Got a motion?
second that.
Okay, motion from Sarah, second from Ted, our champions this meeting. All in favor? Please indicate. Lindsay, Sarah, Kent, Tucker, Heidi, Ted. Great. Oh, Beth. Any opposed? Any abstentions?
This is Lauren. I abstain.
Great. Motion passes. Thank you, guys.
Thanks.
FCNRCD team, I'm gonna interrupt you to give Alaire the floor so that we can respect her time constraints. So if you want to present your project, Alaire.
Yeah, hey everybody. Thanks. And sorry I couldn't be there for the full meeting, but thank you, Tucker, for being there as an alternate. Yeah, so VLT has a project in Lowell, and let me just share a super brief couple images here. And just do the slideshow. Let's see. So this is a preliminary design project, a stream and floodplain work at the Raboyne property in Lowell on the Missisquoi River. So this is a piece of property that VLT conserved back in 2001. Does not have any special protections for water quality. There are abundant wetlands and the Missisquoi River, floodplain forest, and a lot of channelized streams and areas on the property. So part of our reasoning for purchasing this land is that we are going to kind of do like ecological restoration, water quality work here, and then also continue to maximize the farmland qualities of the land. There's a farm barn and a couple buildings, a house that we will eventually sell this property back out to a qualified farmer. So it's part of our farmland access program. And so our interim period of ownership, we are just really trying to do as much restoration as we can to kind of button this easement up and button the property up so it can really be contributing to water quality and flood resilience in the upper Missisquoi. So this is just like a little overview of like what our intention is on this property. We're working with DEC to implement a river corridor easement here, and then looking at a bunch of restoration practices. So this proposal is really just like our first kind of intentional foray. We've had a bunch of visits, walking around, project development work with some partners and some regulators. So that has led to this proposal where we have identified a couple of key things that we want to look at in terms of an overall wetland and stream floodplain restoration project on the property. The primary one is concerning this farm bridge. So this image that you're seeing is showing the VSWY wetlands layer. And some of that is obviously an open land that's been used for agriculture. Some of it's in kind of natural vegetation. And you see this little farm bridge in the middle that crosses the Missisquoi, clearly a constriction. It's not in great shape. And it's something that we're concerned about potentially the river avulsing and moving around it and just making it potentially not usable for the farm, but it's also like a challenge for the river's movement. So we are looking to work on develop like a really solid alternatives analysis that looks at what could it look like for the farm fields, the river, and also the infrastructure to remove the bridge, look at replacing it with potential ford crossings or another kind of structure, but really thinking about just the flood resilience and water quality and phosphorus components of taking that bridge out. We need to do some like early modeling and then maybe some more involved modeling to really figure out what that could look like. There's also a set of other things that we're looking at on the property, like these ditches, some of these ditches that run along the edge, like plugging them potentially, looking at this is a really wet area in this corner, to try to potentially excavate out some meanders and some different things. But really the focus for this application is really kind of putting this bridge through its paces, and what could it look like to take that out. So we have a proposal for $42,000 for 2 phases of design and modeling here. We're calling it a preliminary design proposal. We have essentially, I think we've had some questions about kind of like preliminary design with modeling. Does that fit? Does it not fit? We are moving forward with it as something that is needed because we really need to understand what that bridge specifically is doing here. What could it mean for the land to take it out? But we're planning, if funded, to move forward in kind of a 2-phase process where the first will be a little bit of like desktop mapping, site visits with engineers. We've gotten this quote is based on estimates that we've gotten from 2 different firms. They were basically the same amount. To scout crossings, walk around, do some limited kind of like sketch plans and early concept kind of work. If that looks like something that we want to continue to pursue in terms of would it be feasible for us to pursue removing the bridge and replacing it with another crossing, we would then move to the second phase, which would be the more involved modeling. If it doesn't seem like that is needed, we wouldn't do it. So we're not going to just kind of proceed and do a bunch of modeling here if it does not look like it is going to result, like if it's not seeming like a viable project in terms of cost and the work with all of us. So yeah, I just want to name that because these are some of the conversations we've been having, like with Dean and Karen Bates, and Stacy Pomeroy as we've been developing this proposal. But what's exciting here is that there's quite a bit of phosphorus potential. If we the bridge itself associated with like 9 kilograms of phosphorus per year. So it's there's a lot, and I think because we're in this kind of preliminary design phase, I could talk more about our ideas, but um, we're really looking to kind of jumpstart this and get us some really good data that we can use to make good decisions. I will say that VLT is, as the owner of this property with this intention to do restoration here, we are actively pursuing these different efforts, like the river corridor. There's tree plantains, retiring ag land and wetlands on the property, and that's just going to happen. Like because we are the landowner and that's part of our organizational mission. So wanted to see if folks had any questions here. Happy to share, to try to answer them if I can.
A quick question.
Yeah.
For that price, you're getting basically a preliminary design and you're going out to contract for the design?
Yeah, we would be contracting that design.
Okay.
Yep.
Yeah, that bridge really needs to go. I've been asked to look at it before.
And this picture is like, this is on the bridge looking downstream, and you can just see that big scour pool.
Yes.
Yeah, it's a real challenge. And it's something that as we've been out there, it's like, oh yeah, this is really the thing that we need to look at here.
And the past two flood events have moved the whole decking actually off kilter by like 15 inches.
Oh, interesting. Yeah, it's not in good shape. It's not in good shape.
That thing, because I had the caretaker take me out and take a look at that, and then it was like, yeah, you're gonna need either a new bridge or just remove it.
And that's what we want to answer. It's like, do we want to put in a new bridge? It doesn't, to me, this doesn't seem like a good place to have a bridge, because you see how like the river, the tax parcels, and then the actual river is up here, and it's clearly moving. It looks to me like it's going to keep moving. And
The ford is too deep too. So in the property just north of there on actually the other Reboyne property, they're already working on a river ford crossing. Just above where the Wild and Scenic put-in is.
Oh, cool. Okay.
Just upstream of there.
That's part of it too,
access that side of that west side of the river, which may be the access you could agree on. Because I know the Reboynes are still going to be haying up there. So I'm just kind of throwing that out there. Because I would hate to see another crossing come into the stretch of the river.
There's also a crossing right down here on the Randall property, which has a river corridor easement too. So this is also conserved. So they cross. You can see their road coming down, and I think they cross like right around here. So these are all questions that we're going to be addressing here, and I'm really excited and hopeful we'll get to like a good, good conclusion. Yeah. Yeah, Kent.
Yeah, I'm just not real familiar. Are you north or south of Lowell?
Of the town?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Right
just
on
trying
the
to
town boundary.
Yeah, north of,
Westfield is just north of here, and the town center of Lowell is just south of this mount.
Okay, I got you. Now I think I know where you're at now. So is this is the dairy barn now?
Yep.
And are there livestock there now?
No, there's nobody there now. Nobody lives there. Nobody's using it.
Because you said something about preserving it as a farm site. Are you thinking is going to return to the dairy operation, or do you have other types of agriculture in mind?
Yeah, so that I am not the expert on that. That's our farmland access director, Maggie Donan, who's been working on this. From the conversations I've been having with her, she does not see this being a dairy farm in the future. She sees it as potentially being like a diversified vegetable operation, but that that would be able to really like maximize, like target and maximize smaller like fields, because this field on the other side is like, there is a lot of microtopography there, wet, like places that are wet, places that are like less so. And so there's like little pockets that are really great for agriculture and others that are a little bit
Yeah.
more wet. So that's kind of her thought. It's been used as different things over the years, as you're probably really familiar, Kent. But yeah, we don't see dairy coming back, but I think as we go, we're part of our process here in this interim ownership is that we're doing a farm um, like an analysis. So we're working with Becky Madden from UVM, and she's coming out in the spring to kind of have that conversation. So yeah, I think like it's interesting to think about like who is going to need to cross the river. What's what kind of equipment, what kind of,
Yeah.
yeah.
Okay. Yep. Thank you.
Yeah.
I move to approve this project.
Good second.
Okay, we have a motion from Lauren and a second from Ted. All in favor, please indicate. We've got Kent, Lindsay, Ted, Lauren, Sarah, Heidi, Beth. Any opposed? Any abstentions?
Yeah, VLT abstains.
Abstention from Tucker. Motion passes. Thank you, Alaire.
Awesome. Thank you all. Excited to see this move forward.
All right, Carrie or Mel, you guys are up.
I can go next. Just give me a second to pull it all up.
Carrie, which project are you going to be talking about?
The Trout River Tributary Forest Road project.
I'll give the nuts and bolts while you're getting set. So Trout River Tributary Forest Road, it's a final design project. FCNRCD has requested $21,146.60. The P reduction is estimated at 3.78.
And I'll just say, when we submitted it, we selected final design because for forest road projects, it's just one design phase. So if anybody's
Thank you. Yes, it's been refined, right?
Great. Thanks, Mel, for that. I am presenting on the Trout River Tributary Forest Road project design. This project is in Richford. The project goals, the project proposes to reduce erosion along a 650-foot stretch of skid trail next to a tributary of the Trout River via the implementation of acceptable management practices, AMPs. The design will ensure that the trailside ditches have adequate hydraulic capacity and erosion reduction practices. And this may include the installation of water bars, stone lining, check dams, turnouts, and other additional ditching as needed to bring the trail into compliance with Vermont AMPs. There's also the goal to perform an alternatives analysis to evaluate the cost and benefits of 3 to 5 alternatives, including potential permits and associated phosphorus reduction estimates for each alternative. And we will also create a final design report ready for implementation. This project was identified at a Streamwise visit in 2025 as well. So here's a map of this skid trail. There are some ditches and water bars already in place on the trail, but they are not working as intended. There's some erosion that's visible. Some of the ditches are filled with sediment and in need of repair, and a water bar that turns directly into the stream, which isn't great. So I have some pictures as well. You can see this skid trail is very inundated with water. The water is just sitting on the trail. A lot of sediment is getting kicked up, and there's a lot of erosion. So the final design budget will be around $21,146. For the total project cost of this final design and implementation, we're estimating around $50,000. And the estimated P credit is 3.78 kilograms per year, giving us a cost effectiveness of 13,000 kilograms per year about. Some other project benefits include improving the water quality in the headwaters of the Missisquoi River, improving climate resiliency and ecosystem services. Improvements to the skid trail will allow for less harsh impacts to the waterways after large flooding events, and will improve in-stream habitat with less sediment entering the stream. And this project will also improve a public recreational space. This trail is incorporated in a vast trail network, but I do want to note, though this trail is used recreationally, it is a skid trail that the landowners would like to use in the future to take out wood, potentially. And I think that's all I got for you. I'm happy to take any questions.
I have a question, actually, and I'm looking to change, raise my hand and just haven't been able to find it yet. There, now officially. Okay, so I know I've spoken to you guys about this project, and it's important that it's assessed as the right feature, and you calling it a skid trail and not a logging road. And what was the reason for that?
Just the size of it it's too small to be like to have vehicle passage. I would say it's about like 6 feet wide, maybe.
Right. Okay, so then because skid trail would have a different assessment, you want to make sure you're right about it or correct about it, because you could get more phosphorus reduction from a logging road. And the roads don't have to be very wide. I mean, it's just, it doesn't have to be for the big logging truck. The other thing is that if you need a crossing, because it's vast, are you going to be okay with a water bar, or are they going to require a culvert?
Carrie, you want me to take this?
Yes, if you don't mind, Mel, thank you.
They did previously install water bars. They're just so I think they don't mind those. They're just turned out the wrong way into the stream. So I think we need to coordinate with them as well. But it's not something they were opposed to in the past.
Yay! Okay. And then the third question is, you had an alternatives analysis. Now I haven't seen that for a forest road project, because it's basically you do the assessment, it says what you need, and then you do what you need to get the road to compliance, or at least partial compliance, depending.
Yeah. Sorry, Carrie, do you want me to speak to this as well? I was just gonna say we are doing a high level survey. We are hoping to bring out Silas to complete the road erosion inventory survey, which we haven't done yet. So yeah, this is a new project type, so we're still learning. But the plan is to get out with Forest Parks and Rec as soon as we can, evaluate the trail and get their recommendations. But we are not contracting an engineer for this because it's something that Lauren can do in-house. So I think we were just going to go over a few alternatives with Lauren and Silas, and that's kind of what we mean by that.
Okay, I would take that out just because I wouldn't want that to be a standard practice to have at a road crossing. It's basically, the idea is you will be looking at, I mean, to some degree, you'd be looking at either bringing it to full or partial compliance. I think you get credit for partial compliance, but you may need to go to full, which means that there's no alternatives analysis.
I see what you're saying. Yeah, our plan was to bring it to full compliance.
Yeah, then there's no alternatives analysis needed. And then in terms of the phosphorus crediting, it's a fairly flat area. So just for people to understand or to know that it's going to give you the least amount of credit for a flat area versus a sloped area. So that's just background information for everyone to be. Yeah, just it's nice to have a sense of looking at something and saying, yes, that's exactly where you're going to get a lot of credit. Not as much, but it's close to the water, and so any discharge, and it's complicated as well. Sort of background information, because a lot of the water is coming from the slope that hits the road perpendicularly, and there's not really a practice to address that. It's just you just get the flow under the road or through water bars as quickly as possible without a lot of flow across the road itself.
Thanks for that context, Karen. And Mel, do you have anything to add?
Oh, I was just gonna say, yeah, I mean, we are just planning to work directly with FPR, so we're gonna make sure that everything is up to par with the AMPs.
Yeah, that's great. Actually, it'd be great to have a presentation afterwards about this and what you learned and what Silas provided.
Yeah, I think we'd be happy to.
I need to keep learning as well.
Go ahead, Dean.
Yeah, I just wanted to second what Karen said about removing the reference to the alternatives analysis, and then because we lean on the description that is in the watershed project database, and it doesn't include it. So just from the standpoint of us using that definition or description, it would seem to be a little bit out of sync. But the question I have is that and for the benefit of people new to this, and it is a new project type, the reason this is an eligible activity is that it's non-regulatory when it's been more than 3 years since any forestry activities took place. And what I'm just not remembering from looking at the application materials was there a description of the history? So how is it that we are beyond 3 years since it was used that it is in such need? Were practices installed consistent with AMPs, but then they've failed, or what? What's the history?
I know that it hasn't been logged in the past 3 years. I think they've done a little bit of management. They are in the UVA program, and they're not ag producers. So there's a little bit of forest management that they've done. I don't know about the history of whether or not practices were ever installed on the trails, but it's been quite a few years, probably a decade or so since they've done that management. So it's definitely not regulatory.
And Karen, is that what you had relied on when you approved the project ID? Just the representation that we knew that it was a long time ago?
Yeah, and I probably should have asked for a statement. And thanks for saying that, Dean. So, yeah. I think just to go back, it's really important to go back to that Clean Water Fund Appendix B and go through what's required for a deliverable and make sure it's in the application. And just like with the bid documents for the flood and floodplain restoration project, it's optional, but it's for a project where you're going to have a contractor. You do need it. So anyway, and then also go through the project description and make sure that you've described in the project application and especially for the watershed projects database, it would be nice to have that extra additional information to show that you're meeting all the criteria. Yeah, most important ones.
Go ahead, Lauren.
Just to Karen's point, I know, excuse me, I know Josh also just put this in the chat, or has it in the chat, and Mel has it in the chat, just clarifying the bid phase services and where that's supposed to be. Dean, I know you said you talked to Bethany, but will you just follow up with all of us after you talk to Bethany about bid phase services?
Yes.
Thanks.
Any other comments, questions, discussion? Go ahead, Josh.
Yeah, I just want to follow up on that, Dean. So if you're unsure whether or not bid phase services should be included in final design, I did not include the bid phase services. I was following the Appendix B. So do you recommend that we go back to my application and include a couple $1,000s for that?
My
So we
own
don't have,
my own feeling is follow Appendix B. That's my advice initially. And it, essentially was a request that occurred at the time of the contracting for one project, or different phases of one project that had happened differently. So my Bible or my reference keystone source is Appendix B. So I would say plan on following Appendix B, and I'm going to have the conversation to determine whether or not it's going to continue this situation that happened in connection with the dam removal project is a variation, an official variation from that. So I don't think you need to change something if you followed Appendix B.
thank you.
And I'll just say these are this project and then the next project are final design. So we did include costs for bid phase services in these applications.
I'll just flag, we did also do that for every final design that we've done as a participant in the quiz.
I think it's just good practice, right? Because you're going to have to provide an estimated cost for implementation. So you've been able to then get that.
So, sorry, to that point, in a perfect world, yes, but I think a lot of times you have to go apply for funding before you even get to bid phase services because of when the timeline of applications are due. Carrie, can you also stop sharing your screen? Thanks. Yeah, so theoretically, it makes sense. In practice, it's all a jumbled mess anyway.
Yeah.
Sarah.
I move that we allocate the money for this project.
I have a motion from Sarah. There's a second from Ted. All in favor, please indicate. Got Lindsay, Sarah, Tucker, Kent, Heidi, Ted, Beth. Any opposed? Any abstentions?
This is Lauren. I abstain.
Motion passes. On to the final proposal from FCNRCD, I think, right? Yes. Sandy Bay Stream Restoration, final design, $26,000, 563 requested, estimated P reduction 2.2. Take it away.
Thank you. Oh, Zoom stuff gets in the way. Okay. Can everyone see this? Great. Okay. So this is Sandy Bay Stream Restoration Final Design application. This is following up from a preliminary design that was funded by the quiz. This is located in Franklin, Vermont in the Lake Carmi watershed. So the goal is to install process-based restoration techniques, including beaver dam analogs and post-assisted log structures along Sandy Bay tributary, which is on the western side of Lake Carmi, to improve water quality and flood resilience. And as a part of preliminary design, we identified an undersized culvert on the upstream side of this parcel that we are also including now, that culvert replacement to expand it to bank full width. We need to coordinate with regulators to determine permitting needs and submit relevant permit applications and create a final design report so that it's ready for implementation. And this is our preliminary design, which was completed by Fitzgerald Environmental Associates. Here is Lake Carmi towards the bottom. I don't know if you can see my cursor. So this is the Sandy Bay tributary. Oh, excuse me. It's a pretty small tributary, but it is flowing pretty much year round. So it's kind of on the cusp between perennial and intermittent, but due to landowner anecdotal evidence, they seem to believe it's perennial. So they own both this parcel on the right and this parcel on the left. This parcel on the right is more of like a recreational parcel with mown grass. We actually planted a 75-foot long small buffer downstream here near the mouth of the lake, or the stream, excuse me. But the project for this stream restoration will focus in this forested area up here. There are a few areas where there's already a little bit of wood present in the stream, so we would be expanding those to put more wood. We would be adding, sorry, my phone is ringing. We would be adding additional woody structures here. And then here is where the culvert would be replaced on Sandy Bay Road. And you can see the blue line is how the floodplain access would be expanded through these practices. So the budget for final design is $26,500 about. The total project cost is $100,000, but I do want to point out that that includes about $5,000 of volunteer match because this is a common lot owned by the Blackwoods Association, which is a great group of folks, landowners on Blackwoods Road, who many of them have lakeshore parcels on Lake Carmi, and they're very, very interested in this project. So that's just another the benefit of this project is it would be really involving the community there and helping folks learn about stream restoration. So they want to be included in creating those beaver dam analogs and PALs. So the estimated P credit is 2.2 kilograms per year, including the culvert replacement. And so the cost effectiveness number I have here is with the 4,900 taken out of the 100,000. So it's closer to 95,000. And that comes to 43,000. But if you don't have the volunteer match, it would be closer to 45,000. So I just wanted to make that a bit more clear. Yeah, and some more benefits of this project. We would improve clean water in the phosphorus impaired Lake Carmi watershed, improve flood resilience and ecosystem services, improve aquatic habitat through the addition of woody materials to the stream channel. And like I mentioned, that community education aspect with lots of folks wanting to get involved and participate in the implementation to learn about water quality and stream health. And that's all I have.
Questions or discussion?
Question. Dean, can you remind us what the threshold is for those projects, phosphorus projects?
Yeah. And I was going to ask a question having to do with cost effectiveness as well. So the thresholds are 30,000 for non-stormwater projects. And Mel and I have gone back a little bit, not recently, but we have been looking or talking about trading messages about the cost effectiveness, but it's 30,000. There are exceptions, and anyway, that's the answer to your question. And I didn't know if you have a follow-up, but I had a question for her. So again, it's above the threshold that at this time is what it is. So there are allowances for exceptions. And so my question is, Mel, how can you, or can you identify what any superlative co-benefits and alignment with other high priority initiatives might be? And is there a clear documented justification for that, for the high cost being outweighed by those, and that there's no other funding available? And I can go through those again, or I'll put it in the chat so everybody can see what it is I'm reading from the policy. And so, yeah, if you can just address that as basically an argument in favor.
Sure. So to first go back to what Ted asked, Dean and I did have a conversation about this project and the cost effectiveness being above the threshold. And it was at the level where, you know, he recommended bringing it before the BWIC for the discussion, even though it did not meet the threshold. So that's why we've brought it here. And then I really think that the project's location in the Lake Carmi watershed is a huge reason that it's high priority, and the fact that it will be extremely visible and include the involvement and participation of many community members in Franklin and who live directly on the lake. And we have a pretty great relationship with the landowner, who is the Blackwoods Association. Like I said, we have done a tree planting with them, and they also all volunteered at that tree planting. They're all very enthusiastic about protecting lake health. And we also have another project in a common lot, which is south of this area on Blackwoods Road, which is the Lakeshore Restoration Project. That one had a cost effectiveness of about 60,000 per kilogram. So we did not bring that to the QUISP. We instead went to NRCC enhancement funding, but we don't know if that's been funded yet. But we just have some very a big enthusiastic group of landowners in a very important impaired watershed. And I think the fact that they want to be hands-on is really an opportunity to spread this information about stream health to other stream landowners in the watershed who could potentially implement similar things in the future. And I think having a successful project like this with people directly involved using their hands to help the stream really gets, I think it's more likely for folks to communicate with one another about it being a positive experience and creating more of a trend in the watershed. And then there are also the aquatic habitat benefits. It is a smaller stream, but the woody debris would be very helpful for various aquatic species. And the flood resilience as well. It would expand the floodplain. I can't think of the word, access. So yes, and as far as no other sources of funding being available, we could potentially ask for enhancement funding. We wanted to bring it to the QUISP because the preliminary design had been funded by the QUISP, and we had had the discussion with Dean that it could be brought before the BWIC, despite that cost effectiveness number not being extremely low. I don't know if you want any more information, Dean, or if that's sufficient.
I just think it was important for you to have the opportunity to address it and essentially to use the notes for this meeting to serve as a record because I don't know what the outcome is going to be. But just by way of explanation, I wanted people to know that because the policy is not an absolute, it doesn't close the door. We wouldn't know whether or not a project could be an exception unless it's considered in a sense. Not that I'm addressing that completely. Um, yeah, so I think that depending on what happens next, I may ask you for things to be written down and stated more clearly, but there are other people that have questions, and so I'll stop talking.
Okay, I'm happy to do that. Karen?
So you've done somewhat of some sort of stream assessment then already?
Yes, we have done, well, first of all, like as far as just speaking with the landowners, we did lake-wise and I believe stream-wise as well. I think FWC did a stream-wise assessment. And then Fitzgerald Environmental Associates did a existing conditions analysis, and that's how they came to place the beaver dam analogs and PALs in certain locations, and also how they came to include the culvert replacement in the project, because that wasn't something we were initially considering. But the road is also owned by Blackwoods Association, so it's kind of an easy add-on.
Yeah, but so you guys are paying for the culvert replacement and they aren't?
Yes.
Okay. That seems like an easy way to reduce the costs, but I know it's hard to get an association to plug in, contribute money like that.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so is it the stream was identified as incised then? It was significantly incised, just slightly incised? Do you have some rough?
Yeah, I would say it was about 1 foot to 1.5 foot incision, and for such a small stream, we thought that it could be improved.
Thanks.
No problem. Ted?
Yeah, actually, you answered some great questions. There's a lot of great intangibles in this. I think one of the things is like kind of going through that final checklist of where that cost heavy is. And when you said culvert, that kind of, yep, there you are. That might be the rub here in this, but really putting beaver dam analogs in and PALs is it's easy and shouldn't cost a lot of money to do, especially with volunteers. So I see some ways to slim this cost down and make it more cost effective without losing any of the things that make this a really cool project.
So I do want to speak to that. For us, we have been consistently recommended to contract with engineers for these projects. And so that is where the high cost is. It has nothing to do really with the implementation. It has to do with the design. The preliminary design was about $25,000, and the final design is about $26,000. And so that is really where those costs come in. And if that is something that the QUISP or QUIP did not want to require, we could save on those costs. But with the engineers, with contracting with engineers, it's just not going to be possible for us to cut it down.
Yeah, I've gone back and forth with Fitzgerald to try to lower costs for design on another project, and to some extent it can work. You do have to be fairly aggressive and be able to bring something to the table to them. But it can be done.
I do understand where you're coming from. I just think it could be simple, but the way the requirements are now, it's not how it's working out for us.
And you're having to pay for historic too, SHPO. That's not a cheap thing.
Yeah, and yes, I will say that this does include $6,000 for cultural resources as well. Oh, and I should have said this before. That $6,000 may or may not be spent because we have been in contact with VDHP, and they said they might be able to come out to the site themselves to assess it, which would cost $0 for us. So we could end up saving on that 6,000, but it's unconfirmed, so we just included it in the budget just in case.
Nice. And this, just to remind me, this is final design that you're going after?
Yes.
Okay. Cool. So the total budget for everything from design through implementation could be lowered in the end. Okay.
Yes, I wouldn't say significantly, but maybe to about 90,000, 85,000.
Okay.
I just wanted to flag a couple of additional things. Cost effectiveness might be not the highest or the lowest, most effective. But it is only $100,000 for the whole project. So like to that point, it's not like we're asking for $1 million at a low phosphorus rate. And so I would just like that to be taken into consideration. I'd also like to say that while technically, yes, like there are NRCC enhancement funds or web enhancement funds, those applications are now on an annual basis for the most part. And so because we submitted here per some conversations, we did not submit to NRCC. So it would be at least another year before we could even try to access those funds. And I do also think there are very few formally CWIP funded SWA BDA projects in the Missisquoi Basin. And I think this could give us some good lessons learned and help develop some skills and understanding of this particular project type. Obviously, I want it to be funded, so that's what I'm going to say. But just wanted to provide a little bit more context there for this.
Thanks, Lauren.
Thanks for that, Lauren. And you're right. This is a low cost. And we're not talking hundreds of thousands of dollars. We're talking $100,000. Yeah, I agree with. Yeah, I like this project.
I don't know who had their hand up first, Dean or Sarah.
I'm just moving that we accept it. I don't know if Dean has something else.
Well, it's quick. I don't believe there's any QUISP document that specifies the use of an engineer. There are some DEC documents that have language talking about use of engineers for complex projects, but I wanted to just be on record that the Clean Water Service Provider doesn't, to the best of my recollection as I'm sitting here, have anything that prescribes it. It could very well be that you're getting advice from A&R technical staff with recommendations for the type of consultant to perform the work, but I don't believe it's coming from the QUISP.
Yes, thank you, Dean. I think it's been mostly recommendations from DEC. Speaking with Stacy and yeah, going off of her recommendations. And I'll just say that is something, that might not be a technical requirement, but if we need to get a permit for the site, it is a requirement. So that's where it comes in.
We do have a motion on the floor.
I'm going to make a motion to fund this project.
Well, there already is a motion. Sarah had made a motion.
Oh, well, then I second. I will keep to my lane.
We have a motion from Sarah. We have a second from Ted. Any further discussion? All in favor of funding this project? I've got Lindsay, Sarah, Kent, Tucker, Beth, Ted, Heidi. Any opposed? Any abstentions? Lauren, that's you. I know you're reading, but
sorry, I'm in the chat. This is Lauren. I'm abstaining.
All right, motion passes. Thanks for that good discussion. Thanks everybody for fortitude through the meeting. We do have a couple wrap up things, but we'll try to do that quickly.
I just want to quickly say thank you, everyone, and also these kind of newish types of projects, like the Forest Road project and the Strategic Wood Edition, we're happy to, I was going to say be the guinea pigs, but I actually have a pet guinea pig, so I hate that expression. But we're happy to sort of figure things out and learn on the way and then come back and share all of that information.
Good, thanks, Mel. Project sharing we didn't get to, but I think it'll pop up on the next, well, we're going to have Pete sharing in the next meeting, in the April meeting, which will be great. And we'll see if the agenda allows for more. It would be great to check in on some of these projects. And then, Dean, you want to touch on this one?
Yeah, very, very quickly, people can see the slide. I was simply going to mention project adoption. We're probably going to have a dedicated call for nominations. So be aware of that. It'll just be, I think, simpler to have it something that's distinct. Probably will have its own application form or nomination form. I wanted to just say, I think the vibe might have been projected, but there was a river model created in Lamoille, and I know after having talked with Catherine Dimitrick that she's actively looking, or the commission is actively looking for funding to do in the Missisquoi what was done in the Lamoille, an expansion of modeling or river modeling in the Missisquoi. That's all I got as far as details at this point. Legislative matters, I just wanted to give people a heads up. It's entirely possible that a call could go out to see if someone can go to Montpelier to testify. Don't know that for a fact, but it's something that has been suggested. And then there has been, it's been a few weeks now that an email went out from DECC talking about several areas of policy that they are looking at. And so they have to do with co-funding, the definition of regulatory that doesn't affect us so much, O&M policy, including things like herbicide use, project development form, the eligibility of river corridors and wetland easements for project development in the QUISP realm, some tweaks to the natural resource screening tool, and some changes to historic preservation. If this was something that you noticed when the word first came out a couple of weeks ago, great. I did send out an email after getting a reminder from one of my colleagues, just something that came through the other day, or maybe even today. The initial announcement had the wrong email address. So if you are going to submit comments, make sure you use this one. There's a VT in it that evidently wasn't included. And if you submitted comments before, they ask that you resubmit them using this corrected address. So it's anr.cleanwatervt@vermont.gov. That's all I will say, other than I think people are going to like some of the proposed changes. And so that's a nice thing to be able to say. They might not like all of them, but I think you might like some of them. And the QUISP will certainly like some of them because they have to do with simplifying the whole crediting process when multiple sources of funds are used. Next meeting is April Fool's Day, but we really will have it on that day. And we will have the presentation by Pete Benevento on Lake Carmi. And if there are any other key topics people would like to cover, please let us know.
Should the folks who
Another
are planning
plug
to
for
present today plan to present in April?
That would be great.
Okay, thank you.
And just another plug for reach out offline. I believe there will be a WIC chair meeting on Friday. I haven't actually responded, and I know Ted can't be there, but if it's held on Friday, let me know if you have things that you want me to relay to Chris Rattler about how our book is functioning. That's all we got. Thanks everybody for sticking around.
Thank you all.
104, calling it done.
Hey, Lindsay,
Yeah.
should I go to that? I've got it on my calendar for Friday morning.
Let me follow up with Chris. That was sort of it certainly wouldn't hurt, but if you've got better things to do with your time, the last time we all met with the vice chairs too, I think it was a special request.
Yeah.
But if you have the time, that'd be great.
Well,
But I'm sure you have other things you could do.
okay. I just wondered if it was a big deal or if I should make time.
Not a big deal.
Okay. Thank you.
Thanks. Bye, guys.
Okay, thanks.